What I really like about Profit First is the flexibility. And that's where, like, us mastery members really come in because we see it so much more and we get educated for this as well, which is really helpful and useful. And it's kind of almost a permission piece because when you read the book, it says you've got to reach these taps. But when you're growing and you've got different goals, those taps, they need to change. And yeah, it's really exciting and empowering for the business owner to know it's the framework. It's not set in stone and that they can grow their business using this framework.
So, welcome, Christine, to the Profit First Australia and New Zealand podcast. You are one of our mastery members here at Profit First Australia and New Zealand. And I would love it if you could just share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and your business and who you work with.
Thanks, Katie. Yes. So I started with Profit First because I had a trades client who was interested in doing something more with his cash flow and he just wasn't getting there. And I actually came across Katie's book, the Profit First for Tradies. And I saw that it was part of like a series of books. And I thought, well, I'll just go straight for the book that I need. And I found it very, very helpful. And I wanted to learn more because I thought the ideas in this book are so good and what business owners need. And I loved how it was all based on behavior. So even looking at my own business at that time, I thought, well, I know about money, I work in finance, and I know that I don't always do what I tell everyone they should do. And so I really got the behavioral side of the finance with Profit First. And that's been a big part in my journey with Profit First.
Mm. And I think that's a really good point to touch on that so often we hear, I've opened all the bank accounts and I'm doing Profit First, or I'm moving money around every week or so and I'm doing Profit First. But that is actually one of the obviously foundational pieces of Profit First, but it is certainly not everything. And as you mentioned, that behavioral side is where the big changes and ahas come from for the clients. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about, for either yourself in your business or some of your clients, how that shift has been made between, oh, it's not just bank accounts, and what we're actually doing is changing the way we think and feel with money.
Yeah, so Profit First gives us a really good framework. So I'm just working with a client at the moment, and they are a large client and they need to use supplier finance. And so I was talking with their bank manager because we get involved. We're like specialists. We just come in, we do our bit, and then we step back out again. And they'd already set everything up, but I was just getting an extra conversation in because the bank manager actually really loved the bank account. So I wanted to learn a little bit more. And what she had shared with me is it demonstrates budgeting. And that was really important. And so for a manufacturing company that has got to really manage dates and payment terms and have lead times on ordering, like they needed to have the supplier finance. And what really worked in their favor is having the bank account set up. So we had set all of this up long before they did supplier finance, but it really showed to the bank manager that they were conscious of their money and they were managing it. And I suppose what I really want to share is that you can use Profit First in any business and you can make it work to your benefit, your business benefit.
And I think, again, that's another really important point that, yes, it is a framework, but it will work irrelevant of your size, the industry you're in, whether you're starting out, you've been in business forever and a day. It can be customized to work for you as long as the basics and the framework are there and we don't just kind of go rogue with a whole bunch of bank accounts that aren't necessarily being used for what they should be. And that's a really good example there of particularly for those who are larger or even those who are not larger and may need to get finance down the track to get them out of a bind, that knowing that having those bank accounts there and having that stepping stone, I guess, of starting to manage their money is going to be looked on much more favorable than if everything was just kind of all over the place or piled into one or two bank accounts. For me, I always say with my clients, bank manager or an accountant or a bookkeeper or a business coach or anyone who doesn't know about Profit First, if they open your zero, let's say, and you've got all your bank accounts set up correctly, named correctly, and that you're following the framework and the system, you don't actually have to know all the nitty-gritty detail to understand the concepts. And that's how you know you've got it set up properly, when somebody else can look at it and go, oh, I can see that they can see what's going on in their business. And that's so important. And so you mentioned this client at the moment and you set up Profit First for them a while ago and now working with them again. What has changed for them since that initial implementation to what you're doing now, and kind of like what's that, I guess, that journey for them? Because as we know, it's not just to implement it this way and it's done. It grows and changes with the business. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that side of things.
Yeah, so they got different goals now. So we need to adjust. And that's what I really like about Profit First is the flexibility. And that's where like us mastery members really come in, because we see it so much more and we get educated for this as well, which is really helpful and useful. And it's kind of almost a permission piece, because when you read the book, it says you've got to reach these, these taps. But when you're growing and you've got different goals, those taps, they need to change. And yeah, it's really exciting and empowering for the business owner to know it's the framework. It's not set in stone, and that they can grow their business using this framework.
And when you're talking about your TAPs, in case anyone hasn't read the book, that's the target allocated percentages. So that is the targets that businesses work towards. And there are guides in the book as to, based on your size and so on, what that looks like. But as Christine mentioned there, they are guides and they are great. But the key is really working on what you want out of your business and working with your specialist and your financial team to be able to achieve whatever it may be, because everyone will have different goals. Some people may love debt, happy to get into debt because that's the way they want to grow. Other people, that would be horrible and they don't want to do it that way. They want to grow by having cash to be able to back them up. And I think that is one of the areas where people, a misconception about Profit First, that it has to be this one way. And if you don't fit in that cookie cutter framework, then it doesn't work. When in actual fact, like anything, if you're working with a specialist who knows the detail of your business and of Profit First, then they can customize and create it, the system to work best for you. And like you mentioned there, goals change over time. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your process with clients around their goals and how you deal with that and how you work with them around their goals.
So I love clients that already have a budget, because it means they're already thinking, they're already focused and driven, and they know what they want, because it makes the question and answer session so much easier, because they know their direction and we can start to look at their numbers so much easier. So I just work with them. If they don't have a budget, we get some sort of budget happening. So I've got their vision on paper, because most business owners do like the visuals. So once we know where we're going, that's when we start doing the strategy session. But I really like to get the direction from the business owner, what they're trying to achieve. So the end result, always the end result first.
Yeah, awesome. And I love that, like the visuals on paper, because often too, as a business owner, for those who may be listening and are the business owner, they could very well be thinking, oh, I've got all these goals and ambitions and I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to get from kind of A to B. And that's where someone like yourself would come into play and help them start with their goals and their budget, even if it is, let's say, loose. At least it's a starting point. And from a coaching perspective, that's something that you have continued to do and really is one of your focuses, I guess. Did you want to share a little bit more about that coaching journey with us as well?
Yeah, I've actually transitioned from just having a bookkeeping business to having a coaching business, because I do like working with business and guiding them. And I like stepping in, being the specialist, and then stepping out, because it is a business owner's business. They've got their finance team. I just come in to help with the tweaks, help get them on course. And then they work with their finance team, and then I can just come in for maintenance or whatever. But the business owner is empowered because they're understanding, they've got confidence in their cash flow, they've got clarity. They know what they're looking at. And I don't need to handhold them the whole way through. Once they've got that set up, the design and set up, the training component, then it's their business and they get excited because they're understanding how the cash is actually working for them.
And I think, that's a key piece, that education piece, that coaching and training piece that you do, is that the clients you work with, you want them to be able to stand on their own feet and be able to maintain it going forward, rather than being completely reliant on you consistently. And not that one way is better than the other, but that's the way you like to work. And they're the type of clients that you like to work with as well. And as you say, you can then step back in at key points in time to help them do those tweaks for that next stage that they may be moving up to or over to, depending on where they're headed as well. And so if we're thinking about, I just mentioned like your clients, you like to be able to come in and do the teach coach part and then step out. What are your ideal type of clients to work with? And sometimes this is a industry, or sometimes it's a type of person or people. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
So it's the person I like working with. I actually like a lot of variety and I enjoy the challenge of a new industry to work with. And I know we have a magnificent Australian and global team that we've got as resources. So I always feel confident that we have the knowledge within the Profit First community to help any business owner. So with that confidence, I then just work with the business owner. So I like them to be motivated. They're wanting something with their business. I am very systems orientated. So I do like the larger manufacturing businesses that have systems and processes, because there's a lot we can do that helps with Profit First, but we can also systemize and automate. So that way we've got people doing what they do best. And that makes for a much more fun and work environment. And it means people can take holidays. And from a staffing perspective, for the boss to take holidays, I'm really encouraged the owners to take holidays, because my big thing is bosses tend not to take long service leave. And so I really do like to encourage business owners to get their business into a self-managed business, so that way they can step away. And that's when the creative ideas and the innovation comes in, once you actually just take a rest from your business. But yes, it's the motivated, driven entrepreneurs that I do like to work with, that have got a vision. They could still be at startup, they could be in the middle or anywhere along the journey, because we just tweak the system to suit where they're at.
And I think that's so important as business owners. We get that reminder that we do need to step out of our business multiple times throughout the year for some holidays, not only for our own physical and mental health, but also to test those systems and processes that we've put in place. Because if we're always there to fix anything that doesn't quite work how it should, the systems and processes are never going to be improved, and we have to physically be away from the business to be able to do that. And I know that's something that so many of us struggle with. I know I'm much better at that at sometimes at the process. And so, as you said, it's definitely more around the type of person that you like to work with rather than a specific industry. But you did mention there, it's you like a challenge, you like things to be able to kind of shake things up, and you obviously from that like to continually to learn yourself. And how has that changed your business from, when you started with Profit First as opposed to where the business is now?
So when I started the business, I started a bookkeeping business, and I started that just part-time around the kids. And then I had the opportunity to grow because the kids got older and then less reliant on me. So then I stretched and did more in the bookkeeping business. So just having this Profit First system in place meant I could manage staff wages, because that's the first thing you do is when you start putting staff on, you don't want to pay yourself less because you've got to pay your staff. So that was the biggest thing with Profit First. I just felt comfortable. I was able to pay the staff wages and all the entitlements and things. And now progressing into the coaching business, I've got most of my team is remote. I've still got that concept of staffing, but it's in a different part of different bank accounts now. So with Profit First, I'm able to grow my business and create it, design it the way I want to, and I have the right framework that I can fall back on.
And I think that's really key as well, because everything isn't always perfect and amazing and wonderful just because we're running Profit First in our businesses. Life still does happen, and we still sometimes get off track a little bit, but we've got that framework to come back to, and the bank accounts will always tell us very quickly whether we are off track, rather than having to wait for end of month or end of quarter reports. And so, yeah, it's such a key piece of what any business can benefit from with Profit First as well.
I have to say yes, 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 because that's your red and green flags. The bank accounts really tell you what's going on that week, that day. Like you really know straight away. And I do talk to clients that do paid marketing. I say, well, you can find out straight away if that paid marketing is working just by looking at your bank account because you're getting that direct response from what you're doing. So yeah, I really do like the fact that we can rely on those bank accounts to tell us the information so much sooner.
Yeah. And it's also much harder to hide from your bank accounts because either the money's there or the money's not, which has been useful for many of my clients over time as well. And that comes back to that human behavior piece is that when we can see that money either there or not there, we then get a very clear idea of we're going to choose to ignore it. Or actually, we could take it as a positive and see then what the next steps are to be able to improve the business, whatever way we need to at that time. And so, just finally, Christine, I would love you to share with everyone if they are the type of business owner who is, as you say, entrepreneurial minded, likes change, looking to improve and, implement systems or even improve their systems that they've got at the moment, where would they be best to find you?
Best place is at jadecoaching.com.au. So that is Jade as in color Jade, Jade. And just book a call and we'll have a chat because every business is different and love to hear your story and where you want to go with your business.
Wonderful. Excellent. Thanks so much, Christine.
Thanks, Katie.